ideologies. No, you have to know who you are so you can rewrite the beliefs that limit us and limit our evolution of peace and global unity on this planet. We have to change the belief systems. And science, as I said, has already changed the belief systems, except the public is not getting that information.
So it's a kind of a combined thing. There is an interest also here, I guess, to actually keep people in this state or educate people in this way so they actually don't break out of this mold, right?
This is absolutely true. There was a recent film by Michael Moore called Sicko, which is about the United States health industry and the business that it is and all that. But what was very interesting is that he had a video interview with a man called Tony Benn, who was a member of British Parliament. And Tony Benn just clearly came right out and said that the only way you can control a population is that you keep them unhealthy and you limit their intelligence. Because he said a smart, healthy population is not easy to govern, but a weak, unhealthy and population that is unaware is very easy to control. So there are interesting situations, even as these government officials like Tony Benn point out, that it's not in the interest for the people that manage or control life to have us as the citizens become more aware and become more healthy, because then we are less controllable.
Exactly, and it's not easy to be in a position that we are in now then, because people are from day one basically, being taught into this system, and in many cases I guess it's not our fault. In a way it is, because we are conscious and we are aware and we can break free and out of that at any time, but if we are not handed down the processes of how to think freely, we're likely that we're not going to be able to do it, right?
Right, and the problem with the word fault, this is a problem because this is where some of the issues come in, because people all of a sudden say, I'm not responsible for the problems in my life, because this is the way they were programmed, that things happen to them so that they're just like victims. And the idea is, we can't say that this person is at fault for this reason. They've never been given the proper education to operate from. So if we're ignorant of the truth, then we can't be guilty because we didn't know what the truth was. But now that this new science is available, then here's the whole idea. We educate the population about how truly powerful we are and tell them the nature of how we lost this power through programming by other people. And once we understand this, then we have access to say, well, then how can I change my belief systems? And that's what we have to do, to acquire the powers that we have. And you say, well, what kind of powers do we have? And it's fun. It's, for example, people are very familiar with the fact that other people walk across hot coals, even, flaming hot coals.
Sure.
And you say, what are these special people? And the answer is, they're no special people. They're just like every other person on this planet. Then you say, well, how come they can walk across the hot coals and the average person will do the same thing, will get burned? And the only difference, it's not biology, it's all based on belief. The belief of the person that's walking across the hot coals is unshakable. They know they can walk across it. But if you walk across the hot coals and then question, I wonder if I'll get burned, the moment you question is the moment you get burned. So it's interesting. It's like it's all a matter of belief. Or here's one: a lot of articles. I've got this from a lot of newspaper collections. So because it happens a lot. Let's say there's a car accident, and a child gets pinned under the car. Then a mother can actually lift up the car and get the child out. Now, this is not just one incident. This is reported all over the world. And then all of a sudden you say, well, that's interesting. And I say, no, interesting. I go, here's a woman who's totally untrained, physically not an athlete or anything, lifting over 1,000 pounds, where the most trained weightlifters in this world lift about 700 pounds for a world title. Here's an untrained woman lifting 1,000 pounds. And then people say, oh, well, that's because of the adrenaline. And then I laugh and I say, I don't care what the reason is. The concept is this, that a woman who's totally untrained can lift over 1,000 pounds. And they say, but she wasn't genetically different than anybody else. She's just like any other woman on this planet. They say, well, then how come we're not that strong like Superman? How come we can't lift 1,000 pounds? And the answer is, it's our belief system. basically. And then there's this very other interesting one, because it's an issue in the United States, which I talk about in my lectures. Down in the United States in the South, we have religious fundamentalists that work themselves up into a religious ecstasy state. And in this state, they testify that God protects them by doing things, by showing, look, God protects me. Some of them play with rattlesnakes and copperhead snakes. These are very poisonous vipers. And they show that God protects them by allowing them to play with these very dangerous animals. Even if they get bitten, they don't have the poisonous problem that other people have.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's interesting, but here's the one I want to tell people about, because it's even in a paper by a psychologist who studied these people. Some of them testify that God protects them. And this is a belief issue. This isn't that religious belief, like in a state of ecstasy about how God protects them. Drink strychnine in toxic doses and don't have any adverse effects. Basically what that says, they're drinking poison and they're not getting sick. And the fact is, you cannot do this if you don't have the belief that you're protected. Because if you don't have that belief, that poison will sure as heck kill you. So what's interesting is, we look at these things, walking across fire, lifting 1,000 pounds, drinking a very toxic poison and having no consequence of that, or things like a spontaneous remission, where a person is on a deathbed and all of a sudden they got well and they're off that deathbed, and people say, what is the common connection between the walking across the coals, the fire, the poison, or spontaneous remission? And the answer is, it's all based on the belief of the individual. And you say, wow, belief can do this? And then the joke and fun part is, the new physics called quantum physics, there's a fundamental principle that's built right into the belief system of quantum physics, the most tested science in the history of science. Quantum physics is the most tested and accurate scientific theory ever presented. And what does it say? The fundamental belief in that says that, are the particles that make up our world, are they physical particles, or are they energetic waves? And it can't be both. You can't be a physical thing or an energy wave. It's like either or. And in the physics, what they found out is, if you look at these fundamental units, they're particles if you think they are, or they're waves if you look at them as if they're waves. And it says, well, how can it be both? And the answer is, it's the observer that creates the reality. And this is the fundamental law of physics. Well, the beautiful part is, biology is built on physics. That your biology is built on the principles of physics. So the fundamental principles of physics also apply to biology. It says, what is this world based on? The answer is, it's based on you as the observer, because you are creating the world as you are expressing it. And this is very important, because we are not given this as an education in our basic science courses. Most quantum physics mention there's a thing called quantum physics, and then they don't talk about it very much. but the laws of physics, and why physics are important. Physics means mechanisms. So it's like I say, quantum physics or quantum mechanics, or Newtonian physics, Newtonian mechanics. Physics means mechanics. Mechanics means mechanisms. Mechanisms means, why do things occur? So if you want to understand why things occur on this planet, you have to understand quantum physics. And quantum physics says, well, the first reason why things occur is the observer is creating the reality.
That's right.
And then you say, well, what does that mean to me? And I say, well, look, every listener out here is an observer of the world, and they're participating in the way the world is unfolding and what's happening, so that we're not victims looking around and things are happening to us. We are participants in what is happening to us and to the world. Even to this extent, the famous physicist Stephen Hawking, the cosmology man, who's the physicist of how the world, the universe unfolds. Even Stephen Hawking, in a recent paper this year, acknowledged that the universe is evolving in regards to the way humans are experiencing it. What he said is, humans, as observers, are altering the evolution of the universe. So when you get down to to this, it's like, my God, this is the fundamental nature of physics. And yet, we as people go our day-by-day life not knowing the science of this, and yet it is that science that governs our lives.
And yet it feels like shamans and people of more ancient cultures actually have taught a similar philosophy like this for a long time. So there's been a disconnect here, in a way.
Absolutely. That's the fun part. The newest science is revealing the oldest mythology. And yes, this is a planet of magic almost, in magic in regard to us being the magicians. Mm-hmm. We are creating magic in our lives, and unfortunately, in some people's lives, it's unfortunately a little bit more black magic than white magic, and it's scarier, and yet we can create war or we can create peace. We are creators, and since we aren't given the information about who we are, since our beliefs about ourselves limit us, and here's the unfortunate part, because our education, which gives us our beliefs, tell us who we are and who's in, where the powers lie. Mm-hmm. So if we buy in our own personal belief that we are weak victims and that the other powers that are out there are more powerful, like the medical profession or the government, that these are the powerful ones, then we as victims become whatever they tell us we are.
That's right.
And so if a doctor says makes a mistake on a diagnosis and says that, oh my God, you're dying of cancer, and you actually are not dying of cancer, but you've just been told that you were dying of cancer, that belief can actually create a cancer in your body and cause you to die.
Really? Jeez.
Yes, it's interesting because this is not new. This isn't like magic out of a box. Medical science has known this for 100 years, and yet they don't talk about it to the public. But actually, they do mention one part of it to the public because many of the public are familiar with a word called the placebo effect.
Sure.
And what is the placebo effect? And basically it says this: you have an illness, and I tell you that this drug that I'm going to give you is the most modern drug. It's going to take care of that illness and fix you right now. And you believe that, and I give you this drug, and you take it, and you get well. Only later I tell you that was just a sugar pill. There was nothing in there. And basically it's what is called the placebo effect. You can heal yourself with your belief that you can be healed. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, people are familiar with that. That's all over the world. People know that. But what people are not told is another thing that science knows but doesn't tell people. And here's the other thing. It's called the nocebo effect.
Oh, yeah.
And very few people are familiar with it. What does it say? It says, well, it's the same thing. It says your belief controls your health, but a placebo effect is when you have a positive belief and you heal yourself. A nocebo effect is when you have a negative belief, and that negative belief can actually make you sick and can actually kill you. So all of a sudden, you have to realize medicine has recognized for 100 years the power of belief. It recognizes that you can heal yourself with a positive belief, and it also recognizes that you can you can kill yourself with a negative belief. It's not the placebo nocebo effect. It's the belief effect. Positive or negative, it's equally powerful, but in opposite directions. Why is that relevant? Well, the answer is, if people don't know that, if they go out on their day-to-day life and have these thoughts like, oh, that's not going to work, oh my God, I could catch this flu, oh, I have cancer running in my family, I believe I will get cancer too, or my father died when he was 56 and my grandfather died when he's 58, and so I will die when I am 56 or 8. That's a belief that can actually result in that. So by not being informed of this, the public is out there generally killing itself, making itself sick with beliefs that are actually antagonistic to health. And this is not a surprise because medicine already recognizes that these negative beliefs